What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and today we're about halfway through the wartime era, the package era of the Walt Disney Animation Studios, and we're going to discuss from 1947, Fun and Fancy Free, starring Edgar Bergen and his ventriloquist dummies, Charlie McCarthy and Mortimer Snerd, Luana Patton, Dinah Shore, and the vocal talents of Walt Disney, Clarence Nash, and Pinto Colvig. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And yes, you heard me right in the beginning. Today's show features the voice talents of Walt Disney. Now, some of you guys may know from his very first appearance and the very first word that he ever spoke up until about the mid-50s, Walt Disney himself was the voice of Mickey Mouse. He had to stop doing it, though, because his voice, it was starting to take a toll on his voice, plus with all the smoking that he did, which granted, he tried to keep that under wraps because he didn't want to encourage bad habits in his employees. But it's well documented that Walt was a smoker. The smoking was affecting his voice, and he just couldn't keep doing it anymore. But this is one of those instances where we get Walt as Mickey Mouse in the second half of our show. But before we get to the second half of the show, got to start at the beginning, right? And our film begins, and we find Jiminy Cricket inside of a plant in a large house. He's exploring the house, and he's singing a song called I'm a Happy-Go-Lucky Fellow, until he stumbles upon a doll, a teddy bear, and a record player with some records, one of which is Bongo, a musical romance narrated by Dinah Shore. Jiminy sets up the record player and plays the Bongo record. Bongo is the story of a circus bear who longs for freedom in the wild. Bongo was raised in captivity and praised for his performances, but he's treated poorly once he comes off of stage. While traveling on the circus train one day, his natural instincts urge him to break free. So he answers the call of the wild, escapes on his unicycle, and enters the forest. He begins to live freely and have adventures, and about a day passes before his idealistic assessment of his new situation has been shattered, as he begins to experience some rough conditions. The next morning, Bongo meets Lulabelle, and the two bears immediately fall in love. Bongo soon faces a rival for Lulabelle's affections, though, in the form of Lumpjaw, an enormous, brutish bear. Lulabelle slaps Bongo as a sign of affection, but having been raised in captivity, he has no idea what that means. So when Lulabelle accidentally slaps Lumpjaw, he claims her for himself, which results in all the other bears celebrating the new happy couple. Now that Bongo understands the slapping custom, he goes back and he challenges Lumpjaw. And Bongo is able to outwit Lumpjaw for the majority of the fight. But the two bears fall into a river and go over a waterfall. Lumpjaw is swept away, never to be seen from again. But Bongo just happens to be saved by his circus hat. He claims Lulabelle as his mate, and the two bears live happily ever after. I'm sure I've seen the Bongo short before. I know I've seen the Bongo characters, Bongo and Lulabelle, in the Disney sing-alongs. I believe I've seen the Bongo short before, but I really don't remember it. It was cute, but it seemed it was pretty standard, pretty cut and dry. The whole being raised in captivity and not knowing the traditions of the wild once he got out there, I enjoyed some of that. And I enjoy how the fact that his circus hat, the thing that he wanted to get away from the most, his performances, is what saved him in the end. I thought that was a decent little twist. But again, it was sweet, it was short. Our next short, though, is narrated in live action sequences by none other than famed ventriloquist Edgar Bergen, with help from his ventriloquist dummies, Mortimer Snerd and Charlie McCarthy. And Edgar tells the tale of Mickey and the Beanstalk to child actress Luana Patton, who was in a few different Disney productions, including Song of the South, This, Fun and Fancy Free, Melody Time, So Dear to My Heart, Johnny Tremaine, and Follow Me Boys. Jiminy Cricket enters the scene just in time to listen to the story. Once upon a time, there was a jovial countryside called Happy Valley, which was kept alive and prosperous by a singing harp. When the harp is stolen from the castle by a mysterious assailant, Happy Valley becomes Gruesome Gulch. It becomes plagued by severe drought and falls into turmoil and depression. The residents are driven into poverty and forced to leave in order to avoid death and starvation. It gets so bad that there's only 3 residents left: Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. All the trio have to eat is 1 loaf of bread and 1 bean. So Mickey has no choice but to slice the bread into paper-thin slices for the 3 friends to share. Donald is driven insane by his hunger. He sees an axe and he is about to kill their pet cow for the beef. But he is stopped by Mickey and Goofy. Mickey decides that maybe they should sell the cow for money to buy food. So Mickey goes off to sell the cow, and he comes back home and reveals that instead of selling the cow for money, he traded it for magical beans. An enraged Donald throws the beans away, thinking that Mickey has been tricked. However, it turns out that the beans are in fact magical. As later that night, the light of the full moon causes a beanstalk to sprout from under the house, lifting it into the sky. The next morning, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy find themselves at the top of a giant beanstalk in a magical kingdom of enormous scope. They appear to be tiny creatures in comparison to their surroundings, and soon they make their way to a castle where they help themselves to a sumptuous feast. They stumble upon the harp, locked in a small box, and she explains that she was kidnapped by a wicked giant. Just then, Willie the Giant emerges from the shadows, grunting angrily while simultaneously breaking into a happy song and bouncing a ball, all the while demonstrating his powers of flight, shape-shifting, and invisibility. As Willie prepares to eat his lunch, he catches Mickey hiding in his sandwich after Mickey sneezes when Willie pours pepper onto the sandwich. Mickey tries to run, but Willie catches him. Mickey plays palm reader and gains the giant's trust, though. So Willie offers to show Mickey his powers. Mickey spots a nearby fly swatter and suggests that Willie transform into a fly. Willie suggests a pink bunny instead. As he changes, he sees Mickey, Donald, and Goofy with the swatter. Angry, Willie catches the three friends and locks them in the harp's chest in order to keep them from pulling any more tricks. With the help of the golden harp, Mickey attempts to steal the key so he can free his friends. The harp sings Willie to sleep, and Mickey almost alerts Willie to his presence when he sneezes after falling into a box of powder in Willie's pocket. But the powder makes Willie sneeze as well, and he loses sight of Mickey. Mickey is able to free his friends, and they escape with the harp, but Willie awakens from his sleep and spots them. He chases them all the way back to the beanstalk, and Mickey is able to stall just long enough for Donald and Goofy to reach the bottom, and they begin to cut down the beanstalk. Mickey arrives at the bottom just in the nick of time to help finish cutting the beanstalk down, with Willie falling to his apparent death. Back at Edgar Bergen's house, he finishes up the story, stating that with the return of the harp, Happy Valley was able to return to prosperity. Mortimer Snerd is in tears over the death of Willie, saying that he was a nice giant who didn't deserve to die. Edgar begins to tell Mortimer that Willie is just a fictional character and not real, when all of a sudden, Willie appears, alive and well, looking for Mickey's whereabouts. Edgar faints, while Mortimer tells Willie goodnight. And as our film ends, Jiminy leaves the house into the night, and Willie sees the Brown Derby restaurant. He takes the hat off the sign and puts it on and stomps off to find Mickey with the Hollywood sign blinking in the background. Out of the package era, wartime era films that I've done so far, this is the one that I've enjoyed the most, because I feel that the fact that they just focused on two stories made it so much better. They were able to really invest into creating the best possible stories by only focusing on two, instead of having 7 or 10 or however many different stories all contained within the film. It's very obvious that the Disney animators enjoyed this as well, because the final film of the package era, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, once again is 2 stories contained. Whereas Saludos Amigos, Three Caballeros, Make Mine Music, and Melody Time are all like 7, 8, 10 different stories all rolled into one. It just gets a little bit crazy. And they become shorter, which I get the shorter little films, the shorter shorts, if you will, may be better for theatrical releases later on, because they could take a short, run it before the feature film, and do that type of marketing. But I feel that by having just 2 stories, they were able to focus more on their storytelling and everything, which made it a little better. As a matter of fact, when it comes to my rating for this, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. Even though I don't really remember seeing Bongo before, Mickey and the Beanstalk, classic. Can't go wrong. The classic tale of Jack and the Beanstalk, but told with Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. And Donald Duck is turning out to be the unsung hero here in the package era, of films. Saludos amigos, Three Caballeros, Fun and Fancy Free, and him and Jose Carioca, if I remember correctly, pop up tomorrow in Melody Time. So that's 4 out of the 6 films where Donald pops up in. In contrast, as of right now, Mickey's only been in 2, Goofy's only been in 2. Who's the real leader of the club that's made for you and me? Looks like it's DONALDDUCK, if you ask me. Make sure you guys get out there on social media. Get those hashtags trending for me. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you guys get out there. Do what that commercial just told you. Go to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the official merchandise of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood. Get you your Dad's Not Always on Wrestling shirt, your Renegade JJ Williams shirt, Statboy Sports Bar, hashtag Shenanigans, hashtag Statboy Approved. Get you your official merchandise of the Jeff Meacham Network. 3 different designs of the Jeff Meacham Network logo to choose from, along with Talk Wrestling, Meachamania, and so much more. Get out there, do us a solid, and support. And while you're out there supporting, do what that ticker tells you. If you enjoy my content, you want to help me get some more movies to review, go to that PayPal, send me a donation, however much you feel comfortable spending, or go to that link tree, purchase something off my Amazon movie wish list. Either way, I graciously appreciate your support and all the support that you guys have given me since resurrecting the show. Keep in mind, as of right now, I can't monetize anything. I haven't got enough view hours yet to do that. So the only way that you can help support me is to do what that ticker says. Tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, we'll bring you yet another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And we'll be talking about Melody Time, another collection of multiple shorts set to modern music, much in the vein that Make Mine Music was. You're going to want to make sure that you tune in tomorrow. Check it out. It should be another good one. To all my loyal viewers watching the live premiere, leaving your comments over here, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. All my loyal viewers watching on demand, leaving your thoughts down here, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you guys that tune in on a regular basis and support me. Your support does not go unnoticed. Thank you very much for everything, and I will see you guys next time.